In this video, we're going to talk about yarn and specifically how the yarn needs to be set up in order to work best with your circular sock machine. So this is a normal cake. If I were to hand knit, this is the kind of cake I would make with my yarn. But unfortunately, with the sock machine, as it's pulling out of the center, sometimes there are just little catches on the tension and it can create issues with your knit and tragically can cause stitches to jump off the needles, which is not good. The same thing can happen if you have a skein that comes from the store already wound. The same problem can happen, that there can just be little tugs. It's not an even tension. So what you want is for your yarn to be wound onto a cone. And these cones and this yarn winder are available for sale from the Dean & Bean site. And I'm going to show you how to wind a cone. You can buy cones already wound. This is commercially wound, and this is great. It is not possible to wind a cone at home that works exactly like this. So you can buy yarn cones, like this is waste yarn that I frequently use. But one drawback is that it's a lot of yarn. So I might do this if I were going to make several pairs of socks for friends and family at Christmas, for example. But normally I like to have, hand-dyed yarn by local dyers, and I like to make each pair of socks, different, unique for the person. And so other than waste yarn, it is not my preference to use the store-bought cones. The other thing to watch for is yarn barf. If you do not get the tension right, all the yarn starts to kind of come off the top, and this is unusable. So this was an example to show you what happens, and this is what we want to avoid. So I'm going to show you how to do all of that. One final note before we start is that if you're working with a skein like this, you can simply reach into the center and pull out the end. And once you find the very final end of it, that is what you're going to use to wrap your skein onto the cones. If you are starting with a hank of yarn like this, like from a hand dyer, then first you would need to put this onto a Swift, and it's very easy to do this next step from having the yarn wound on the Swift. So today I'm going to use this one that I just showed you that was already in the skein. And your first step is to take this, and it fits in a normal drill. And I have seen people, clamp these to their workbenches, for example. I just tend to hold it. So you screw that into the end of your drill, and then your cone fits right on there, no problem. So this one is turning away from me like that. So the first step is to lay the yarn in the direction that it's going to turn. And the cone is just a little bit grippy, so it'll stay on there to get you started. So one important thing to know is that you don't want to be too close to the end. Leave a little space, and then you want to leave a good size space at the tip. So here is one that is wound nicely. If you get too close to the top, that's how you can get that yarn barf. So you also want to be careful with the shape. You do want it to be kind of an angled shape. If the bottom layers were wrapped all the way down here, when it tries to unravel, it can pull all those pieces up. And again, that's how you get the yarn barf. So we're going to build up some layers and try to avoid like a great big hump at any point. Try to keep it nice and smooth. And the final tip is you want a little bit more tension than you would normally have. For example, if you were hand knitting, when you wind the yarn cakes, there's not a whole lot of tension, but I find that you need a little bit more tension when winding the cones so that they don't all come apart into yarn barf. So with those initial thoughts, let's just give it a try. So you're going to start by just going back and forth gently to build up some layers near the bottom. Sometimes I try to build up a little bit extra at that bottom piece so that I don't go back underneath there. And again, I'm holding, in this case, on my right hand, just a little bit of tension in the yarn. Particularly as I get closer to the top of the cone, I want there to be a little bit more tension on the yarn so that as I start to use the cone, it doesn't just pull all the yarn right off the top. Here we have the final cone ready to use, not too close to the top, not too close to the bottom, carefully slanted. And so this is ready to go with your Dean & Bean sock machine. Happy knitting! Visit us at deanandbean.com and please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.